The Galactic Council had existed for 3,000 years. It was the most powerful group in the known universe. 12 alien species sat together in a giant station called Meridian. They talked about trade, borders, and laws that controlled hundreds of star systems. The station floated in deep space, far from any planet, built from crystals that glowed with soft blue light. The Veltari were in charge of the meetings. They were tall insect-like creatures with large eyes that could see things no other species could see. They had run the council for over 1,000 years and believed they were the wisest beings alive. The Korath were different. They were huge reptiles covered in dark green scales. Their teeth were sharp like knives. Their claws could cut through metal. They had conquered 6 other species before joining the council. Everyone feared them. Everyone respected them. No one challenged them. The council had not accepted a new species in 800 years. The rules were simple but impossible for most. A species needed faster than light travel. They needed one government for their whole planet. And they needed 3 council members to invite them. Without all 3 things, no species could join. Humans had none of these things. That is why the council was so shocked when a human ship appeared out of nowhere. The ship came through the station's defenses at impossible speed. It was moving 17 times faster than light. The defense systems did not even have time to fire. The ship crashed directly into Docking Bay 7. The impact shook the entire station. Alarms screamed. Lights flashed. Security teams ran toward the crash site with weapons ready. Ambassador Kethrol of the Veltari was speaking when it happened. He stopped mid-sentence. His large eyes turned toward the door. He had never been interrupted before. Not in 600 years of running council meetings. High Commander Varath of the Korath stood up slowly. He was almost 3 meters tall. His scarred body showed evidence of many battles. He had not felt excited about anything in a very long time. But now something had caught his attention. What species has ships that fast? One delegate asked. No one had an answer. At Docking Bay 7, security teams surrounded the crashed ship. It was ugly. Pieces of different metals were welded together in ways that made no sense. Wires hung from open panels. Smoke poured from cracks in the hull. The ship should not have been able to fly at all. It certainly should not have been able to travel faster than light. The airlock opened with a grinding sound. 3 figures stumbled out into the bay. They were small. They had soft skin with no scales or armor. Their eyes were tiny compared to most species. They looked weak, fragile. 2 of them fell immediately. They could not breathe the station's air properly. They gasped and choked on the ground. The 3rd one stayed standing. She was a female human. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead. Her clothes were torn and burned. She was shaking, but she did not fall. She looked at the security teams pointing weapons at her. She looked at the aliens she had never seen before. And she spoke. I need to talk to whoever is in charge. Earth is under attack. Her name was Kay Warren. She was 29 years old. She had been a scientist on Earth just 2 years ago. She had studied physics at a university and dreamed of exploring space someday. She never imagined she would be the first human to meet alien life. She never imagined she would have to beg those aliens to save her entire species. The security teams did not know what to do with her. They had never seen a human before. Their scanners could not properly read her biology. She was something completely new. They brought her to the council chamber. Katie walked into the massive room alone. Her 2 companions were taken to a medical facility. The doctors there had no idea how to treat human injuries, but they would try. Katie could not worry about them now. She had a bigger problem. 12 alien species stared at her. Some were huge and terrifying. Some were small and strange. Some did not even have solid bodies. They all looked at her like she was an insect that had crawled into their home. "You have broken 17 of our laws," Ambassador Kethral announced. His voice was cold and sharp. "Coming here without invitation is an act of war." Katie did not have time for this. She had traveled 400 light years. She had watched friends die on the journey. She had pushed herself beyond all limits to reach this place. And now this alien was talking about laws. "I do not care about your laws," she said. Her voice was rough but strong. "There is a fleet of ships heading to Earth right now. Hundreds of ships. They call themselves the Dominion of the Eternal Hunt. They plan to kill every human alive. All 8 billion of us." The chamber went quiet. High Commander Varth leaned forward. His yellow eyes focused on the tiny human standing alone in the center of the room. He knew about the Dominion. They were hunters who operated far beyond Council space. They found primitive species and killed them for sport. They have been doing this for thousands of years. "Lear's been doing this for thousands of years." "The Dominion," Varth growled. "How did you escape their scouts?" Katie looked up at the massive predator. He was the most frightening thing she had ever seen. But she did not look away. She could not afford to show weakness. "We did not escape," she said. "We fought them. We killed their advance party. All of them. Then we captured one of their ships." She paused. "We figured out how their engine worked. We built our own version in 11 months. Then we came here." The council erupted in noise. Every species talked at once. "Impossible," they said. "No primitive species could learn faster than light travel so quickly. No prey species could kill Dominion hunters." This human was lying. She had to be lying. But the crash ship in Docking Bay 7 said otherwise. Katie waited for the noise to stop. Then she activated the display system. She did not know how she knew it would work. Some part of her just understood technology in a way she could not explain. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Earth, blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It was beautiful. It was home. Red symbols covered the image. Dominion hunting markers. The translation was clear. Target designated. Extermination fleet deployed. Arrival in 6 months. "I came here to ask for help," Katie said. "We cannot fight them alone." She looked around the chamber at every alien face. "But I did not come here to beg. If you will not help us, we will fight anyway. We will probably die. But we will make them pay for every single life they take." High Commander Varth watched the tiny human make her stand. She was small, weak, alone, and she was threatening an enemy that had destroyed hundreds of species. For the first time in centuries, Varth felt something he had almost forgotten. Respect. The council argued for 3 days. Delegates screamed at each other in languages that the translation machines could barely handle. Some wanted to help the humans. Most did not. Earth was far away. Humans were primitive. Why should the council risk war with the Dominion for creatures they had never met? Katie Warren did not sleep during those 3 days. She could not. Every hour that passed was an hour closer to the destruction of her world. She went to every delegation. She showed them data. She answered their questions. She begged and argued and pleaded until her voice was almost gone. The Volthari delegation listened politely and then told her they could not help. The risk was too great. Earth was too far. Humans were too primitive. They wished their species well, but they would not send ships to die for strangers. The smaller species said similar things. They were afraid of the Dominion. They were afraid of what might happen if they got involved. They had their own worlds to protect. Katie understood their fear. She hated it, but she understood it. On the second day, something strange happened. The Morokai ambassador came to see her. The Morokai were unlike any species Katie had ever imagined. They did not have solid bodies. They were made of flowing light and energy. They communicated through emotions rather than words. Being near them felt like standing next to a warm fire. The ambassador floated in front of Katie for a long moment. Then it spoke, and its voice sounded like wind blowing through bells. "Your emotions are very loud," the ambassador said. "Most species feel one or two things at a time. You feel everything at once. Fear and hope. Anger and love. Desperation and determination. All of it together. All of it strong." The glowing form pulsed with soft colors. "How do you survive feeling so much?" Katie thought about the question. No one had ever asked her anything like that before. "We do not have a choice," she finally said. "We feel everything. We keep going anyway. That is what humans do. We hurt, and we struggle, and we fall down. And then we get back up. Every single time." The Morokai ambassador studied her with senses that Katie could not understand. Then it did something unexpected. It reached out with a tendril of light and touched her hand. The touch felt like comfort and sadness and hope all mixed together. "I believe you," the ambassador said. "I will speak to my people." Meanwhile, the Velthari scientists were studying the crashed human ship. They had examined faster than light engines for thousands of years. They understood the technology better than anyone in the galaxy. What they found in the human ship shocked them. The humans had not just copied the Dominion engine. They had changed it. They had made it better. The modifications were crude and rough, held together with materials that should not have worked. But the engine was faster than the original Dominion design. Somehow, in less than a year, with no experience and no training, humans had improved on technology that had taken other species centuries to develop. The lead scientist wrote a report for the council. It contained only one conclusion: impossible, and yet verified. On the third day, High Commander Vorath summoned Katie to a private meeting. The room was designed for Korath combat rituals. The walls were covered with claw marks from ancient fights. The air was thick and hot. Everything about the space was meant to intimidate. Vorath stood in the center of the room. He was even more terrifying up close. His scales were dark green, almost black. Scars covered his body from head to tail. His teeth were longer than Katie's fingers. His claws could cut through steel. He circled her slowly. His movements were smooth and patient. He was a predator who had never needed to rush. He had all the time in the world. "Your species interests me," Vorath said. His voice was a deep rumble that Katie felt in her chest. "You are small. Your skin is soft. You have no claws, no fangs, no armor. Your senses are weak compared to most species." He stopped in front of her and lowered his massive head until his breath washed over her face. "And yet you killed Dominion hunters. How?" Katie's heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. Every instinct in her body screamed at her to run. This creature could kill her with one swipe of his claw. He could bite her in half without effort. She was nothing compared to him, but she did not run. She did not step back. She looked into his yellow eyes and answered. "We are persistent," she said. "We do not stop. We do not give up. When something knocks us down, we get back up. When something tries to kill us, we find a way to kill it first." Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. "Your species conquered through strength. Mine survived through stubbornness. We are not the biggest. We are not the strongest. But we never, ever quit." Vorath stared at her for a long moment. His eyes were ancient. They had seen countless battles, countless enemies. He had fought creatures twice his size and won. He had led armies across star systems. Nothing surprised him anymore, until now. The massive predator threw back his head and laughed. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. Kitty had never heard a Korath laugh before. She did not know they could. "The council will vote against you," Boris said when his laughter faded. "The Valkyrie are afraid of what your species might become. The others do not care about worlds outside their borders." He straightened to his full height and looked down at her. "But the Korath do not answer to the council in matters of war. And I have not had a worthy hunt in a very long time." The vote came the next morning. Kitty stood in the center of the chamber and watched as 11 species voted against helping Earth. Only the Korath voted yes. It was not enough. Earth would receive no official help from the Galactic Council. Katie felt her heart sink. She had failed. She had come all this way, sacrificed so much, and it had not been enough. Her species was going to die. Then Vorith stood up. His voice filled the entire chamber. "The Korath fleet will leave for human space within the hour. Anyone who wishes to join the hunt is welcome." He bared his teeth in something that might have been a smile. "I believe these humans will show us something we have never seen before." Katie looked at the massive predator. He was offering to help even though the council had voted no. He was going against thousands of years of tradition because he believed in humanity. "Why?" she asked. "Why help us?" Varath's yellow eyes met hers. "Because you remind me of what my species used to be," he said. "Before we became comfortable. Before we forgot what it meant to fight for survival." His massive claws flexed. "I want to see what happens when your species fights for its life. I think it will be magnificent." Kay Warren did not know whether to laugh or cry. So she did both. Help was coming. It was not what she had hoped for. It was not what she had planned. But it was something. And for humanity, something was always enough. Katie Warren returned to Earth with news that changed everything. The Galactic Council had refused to help. But the Korath were coming. 50 warships, each one larger than anything humans had ever built, were on their way. They would arrive in 4 months. The Dominion fleet would arrive in 6. That gave humanity 2 months to prepare before the Korath arrived. 2 months to go from a species that had never fought a space battle to a species that could stand. Beside the most feared warriors in the galaxy. It was impossible. Humans did it anyway. The nations of Earth united within a week. Old enemies became allies. Old arguments were forgotten. Every government on the planet agreed to work together under one command structure. The United Earth Defense Force was born in a conference room in Geneva while politicians, who had hated each other for decades, shook hands and got to work. Nathan Cole was 34 years old when they gave him command of Earth's first warship. He had been a naval officer before everything changed. He had served on aircraft carriers and submarines. He had never expected to serve on a spaceship. None of them had. The shipyards worked day and night. Factories that had made cars started making weapons. Scientists who had studied medicine started studying alien biology. Engineers who had built bridges started building engines that could break the laws of physics. The first human-designed warship was called the Endurance. It was ugly. It was rough. Parts of it were held together with welding that would have made any proper engineer cry. But it worked. The engine was based on the captured Dominion design, but human engineers had made changes. They had made it faster. They had made it more efficient. They had done in weeks what other species took decades to accomplish. Nathan stood on the bridge of the Endurance and looked out at Earth through the main viewport. The planet looked so small from up here, so fragile. 8 billion people were counting on him and his crew to protect them. "Commander," his communications officer said. Her name was Maria Santos. She was 26 years old and had been a radio operator in the Army 6 months ago. The Korath fleet has entered the solar system. Nathan took a deep breath. Open a channel. The view screen flickered. High Commander Varath's massive face appeared. His yellow eyes studied Nathan with predatory interest. You are the human they put in charge of their fleet? Varath asked. Yes, High Commander, Nathan said. I am Commander Nathan Cole. How many ships do you have? Nathan felt embarrassed to answer. 238. Most of them are small. Only 40 are what we would call warships. Varath was quiet for a moment. The Dominion is bringing over 400 ships. Each one is larger and better armed than anything you have built. I know, Nathan said. Your species will take heavy losses. I know. Many of your people will die. I know. Nathan's voice was steady. We are going to fight anyway. Varath studied the human commander for a long moment. Then he made that rumbling sound that Katie had told Nathan was laughter. Good, Varath said. Very good. We will speak more when we arrive at your planet. Prepare your people, Commander Cole. The hunt begins soon. The channel closed. Nathan turned to his crew. They were young. Most of them had never been in combat before. They looked scared. They looked determined. They looked human. You heard him, Nathan said. Let us get to work. The next 2 months were the hardest of Nathan's life. The Korath arrived and immediately began training exercises with the human fleet. It was brutal. The Korath did not believe in gentle lessons. They believed in survival through pain. Varath's second in command was a female Korath named Cressa. She was smaller than Varath, but no less deadly. She ran the training sessions with an intensity that pushed human crews to their limits. Your tactics are wrong, she told Nathan after one particularly bad exercise. You form lines. You protect each other. You fight like prey trying not to die. What should we do instead? Nathan asked. Cressa bared her teeth. Fight like predators. Attack. Be aggressive. Make them fear you. She leaned closer. The Dominion expects you to run. They expect you to hide. They expect you to die quietly. Do not give them what they expect. Nathan thought about her words for a long time. Then he gathered his captains and told them everything had to change. The new tactics were crazy. They went against everything humans had learned about military strategy. Instead of defending, they would attack. Instead of staying together, they would scatter and strike from every direction. Instead of trying to survive, they would try to make the enemy pay for every inch of space. Chris Palmer was Nathan's tactical officer. He was a former video game designer who had spent his life creating fictional space battles. Now he was designing real ones. This is insane, Chris said when he saw the new plans. Half our ships will be destroyed in the first hour. Probably, Nathan agreed. But what about the other half? Chris looked at the tactical displays. He ran simulations. He calculated probabilities. Slowly, a smile spread across his face. The other half will tear them apart, he said. They will not know what hit them. The Dominion fleet arrived 2 months later. They came out of faster than light travel at the edge of the solar system. 412 ships arranged in perfect hunting formation. They had done this hundreds of times before. They knew exactly how primitive species reacted when they saw the fleet. They ran. They hid. They begged for mercy. The humans did not run. The humans did not hide. The humans came out to meet them. Nathan stood on the bridge of the Endurance and watched the enemy fleet on his display. Behind him, 238 human ships formed up in attack positions. The Korath fleet held back, watching, waiting to see what would happen. Incoming transmission, Maria said. The Dominion commander wants to speak with us. Put him through. The view screen showed a creature that looked like a nightmare. It had too many eyes, too many limbs, teeth that curved like hooks. This was what had been hunting species across the galaxy for thousands of years. Primitive creatures, the Dominion commander said. You have built toys from stolen technology. You have convinced yourselves that these toys make you dangerous. They do not. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick. Resist, and we will hunt every last one of you across the galaxy. Your children will scream. Your elders will beg. And we will enjoy every moment. Nathan let the words wash over him. He thought about Earth behind him. He thought about the people he was protecting. He thought about Katie Warren and her impossible journey to reach the Council. He thought about everything humanity had accomplished in just 6 months. This is Commander Nathan Cole of the United Earth Defense Force, he said. His voice was calm and steady. You have traveled a very long way to die. He cut the transmission. All ships, Nathan said. Attack. The battle for Earth began. The human fleet scattered like seeds thrown into the wind. Ships flew in every direction at once. They broke formation. They ignored traditional tactics. They did exactly what Cressa had taught them to do. They attacked like predators. The Dominion commander watched his tactical display with confusion. He had hunted hundreds of species. He had seen every kind of defense imaginable. He had never seen anything like this. What are they doing? He demanded. They should be forming defensive lines. They should be protecting their planet. Why are they coming toward us? No one had an answer. The first human ships reached the Dominion fleet within minutes. They were small and fast and completely insane. They flew directly at the massive enemy vessels without slowing down. Some of them fired weapons. Some of them launched missiles. Some of them did not stop at all. The first ramming attack caught the Dominion completely off guard. A human frigate, barely larger than a shuttle, accelerated to full speed and crashed directly into a Dominion cruiser. The explosion destroyed both ships instantly. They are killing themselves, the Dominion commander said. His many eyes blinked in confusion. Why would they kill themselves? The answer came seconds later when 3 more human ships did the same thing. They aimed themselves at Dominion vessels and accelerated until impact. Some of them were unmanned drones loaded with nuclear weapons. Some of them were crewed ships whose pilots had volunteered for one-way missions. The humans were not trying to survive. They were trying to make the Dominion pay for every single life. Nathan Cole watched the battle unfold from the bridge of the Endurance. The tactical display showed red and blue dots dancing across the screen. Red dots were disappearing fast. So were blue dots. We have lost 43 ships in the first hour, Chris Palmer reported. His voice was strained but steady. Dominion losses are at 67. Nathan nodded. They were trading lives at better than expected ratios. It was not enough to win, but it was enough to hurt. Tell the second wave to begin their approach, Nathan ordered. Focus on their supply ships. Take out their ability to repair and resupply. The second wave was made up of the fastest human ships. They had been waiting behind a cluster of asteroids in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. Now they emerged and struck at the Dominion support vessels. The Dominion commander finally began to understand what was happening. The humans were not fighting to defend their planet. They were fighting to destroy his fleet. They were sacrificing themselves in numbers he had never seen before. Every human ship that died took at least 1 Dominion ship with it. Pull back, he ordered. Reform our lines. These creatures are mad. But pulling back was difficult. Human ships were everywhere. They struck from every direction. They hid in asteroid fields and emerged to fire missiles before disappearing again. They used the planets and moons of the solar system as cover. They turned the entire star system into a battlefield. High Commander Vorath watched from his flagship at the edge of the combat zone. His yellow eyes tracked every explosion, every maneuver, every moment of the battle. Beside him, Cressa stood with her claws twitching. "They are magnificent," Cressa said. "I have never seen prey fight like this." "They are not prey," Vareth replied. "Not anymore." 12 hours into the battle, the numbers had shifted dramatically. The humans had lost over 100 ships. More than 8,000 people were dead. But the Dominion had lost even more. Their perfect hunting formation was broken. Their supply ships were destroyed. Their commanders were confused and angry. The Dominion commander sent a new message to the human fleet. "This is madness," he said. "You cannot win. Even if you destroy half my fleet, the survivors will still be enough to burn your planet. Stop this foolishness. Surrender and die with dignity." Nathan received the message on a bridge that was filling with smoke. The Endurance had taken 3 direct hits. A quarter of his crew was dead. He had burns on his arms and a piece of metal stuck in his leg that he had not had time to remove. He opened a response channel. "You do not understand," Nathan said. "We are not fighting to win. We are fighting because we refuse to lose. We are fighting because giving up is not something humans know how to do." He coughed and tasted blood. "You wanted to hunt us. You wanted to harvest us. You wanted to add our species to your collection of trophies. But you made a mistake. You gave us time to prepare. You let us see you coming. And now you are going to learn what happens when humans have something to fight for." He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. "All remaining ships," he said, "focus fire on the flagship. Everything we have left. Hit them with everything." The human fleet, what was left of it, turned toward the Dominion command vessel. They came from every direction at once. Missiles flew. Energy weapons fired. Ships that were too damaged to fight anymore accelerated toward the enemy on suicide runs. The Dominion flagship was the largest ship in their fleet. It had shields that could withstand nuclear weapons. It had armor that could resist anything smaller than a planet killer. It had survived hundreds of battles. It did not survive this one. The concentrated fire from the human fleet overwhelmed its defenses. Missiles found weak points in the armor. Energy beams cut through shield generators. And then a human destroyer, completely out of ammunition and barely able to fly, crashed directly into the bridge. The Dominion flagship exploded. The Dominion commander died without understanding what had happened. In all his centuries of hunting, he had never encountered a species willing to sacrifice so much. He had never met creatures who would rather die fighting than live as slaves. The death of the flagship broke the Dominion fleet. Their coordination failed. Their morale collapsed. Ships began to retreat, trying to escape the solar system and report back to their masters. That was when Vareth made his decision. "All Karth ships," he announced, "engage the enemy. No survivors." The Karth fleet had been waiting for this moment. 50 warships, each one crewed by the deadliest predators in the galaxy, swept into the battle like sharks smelling blood. They cut off the Dominion retreat. They destroyed fleeing ships without mercy. They hunted the hunters. The battle for Earth lasted 31 hours in total. When it ended, the human fleet was reduced to less than 40 functional ships. Over 18,000 humans were dead. The Endurance was barely holding together, kept alive by emergency repairs and the stubborn refusal of its crew to give up. But the Dominion fleet was destroyed. 340 ships were gone. The greatest threat humanity had ever faced was broken. Nathan Cole was still standing when Varath's shuttle docked with the crippled Endurance. He was barely conscious. His wounds had not been treated. He had not slept in over 30 hours. But he refused to sit down. He refused to collapse. He was the commander, and he would stand until the battle was truly over. Vareth walked through the ruined corridors of the human ship. He stepped over bodies. He saw the damage. He saw the cost of victory written in blood and metal. When he reached the bridge, he found Nathan Cole waiting for him. The human was held up by Maria Santos on one side and Chris Palmer on the other. His crew refused to let him fall. Varath looked at the human commander. He saw the exhaustion. He saw the pain. He saw the iron will that kept him standing despite everything. And then High Commander Varath, the most feared predator in the galaxy, slowly lowered himself to one knee. "Humanity has earned its place," Varath said. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. "The Korath recognize you as worthy. As equals?" His great head bowed. "As allies." Nathan Cole looked at the massive predator kneeling before him. He thought about everything that had happened, everything they had lost, everything they had won. "Thank you," he said, "for giving us a chance." Varath looked up. "You did not need a chance. You needed an audience." His teeth showed in what might have been a smile. "And now the entire galaxy is watching." 2 months after the battle for Earth, the Galactic Council met again in the crystalline halls of Station Meridian. Every seat was filled. Every species sent their highest representatives. The tension in the chamber was visible in ways that transcended biology. Everyone knew something important was about to happen. Katie Warren walked into the chamber as the official representative of humanity. She wore a uniform now. Earth had given her a military rank, even though she had never been a soldier. She had tried to refuse the honor, but they insisted. She was the woman who had saved them all. The woman who had crashed into the council chamber and demanded that the galaxy pay attention. She looked different than she had the first time she stood in this room. She was older, harder. The desperate scientist who had begged for help was gone. In her place stood a diplomat who had watched her species fight for survival and win. "The Council recognizes the human delegation," Ambassador Cathrall announced. His voice was careful and neutral. He had voted against helping humanity. He remembered that. So did everyone else. "You may address the assembly." Katie walked to the central podium. She took her time. She looked at every delegation, every species that had refused to help, every species that had decided humans were not worth saving. 6 months ago, she began, I stood in this room and asked for help. I told you that my planet was under attack. I told you that billions of people would die if no one came to our aid. She paused. 11 of you voted no. 11 species decided that humanity was too primitive, too young, too insignificant to matter. The chamber was completely silent. We saved ourselves anyway. Ambassador Cathrall shifted uncomfortably. The Council acknowledges humanity's victory against the Dominion. It was impressive. However, the requirements for Council membership are clear. A species needs unified government, faster-than-light capability, an invitation from 3 existing member species. You have the first 2, but only the Karth have offered support. You need 3 sponsors. Katie smiled. It was not a warm smile. High Commander Varth rose from his seat. He towered over the other delegates, his scales dark and his scars visible even from across the chamber. The Karth formally sponsor humanity for Council membership, he announced. Another figure rose. The Marakai ambassador, a being of flowing light and energy, moved to the center of their delegation's area. Their emotional presence filled the chamber with something that felt like admiration and hope. The Marakai formally sponsor humanity for Council membership, they said. The chamber stirred. 2 sponsors. It was impressive for such a young species. But 2 was not 3. Katie's smile grew wider. Before we continue, she said, I think the Council should know something important. When we captured that Dominion ship, we did not just take their engine. We took their databases, complete navigation charts, trade routes, military positions. She touched a control on the podium. including records of every species the Dominion has ever hunted. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed world after world, species after species, names and dates going back thousands of years. The Dominion's complete hunting history. 6 of the species on this list, Katie said, are represented in this chamber today. Chaos erupted. The Velthari delegation went completely still. 3 other delegations began speaking rapidly in their native languages. 2 delegates left the chamber entirely. Everyone was talking at once. Katie waited for the noise to fade. You were all prey once, she continued. You survived. You grew strong. You joined this council. And then you forgot what it was like to be small and alone and facing extinction. Her eyes moved across the chamber. We never will. The vote for humanity's membership came an hour later. It passed unanimously. Even the Velthari voted yes. Even the species who had wanted humanity to die voted to accept them. But Katie was not finished. Hi, Commander Vorath stood again. When he spoke, his voice silenced every being in the chamber. The Korath propose a new measure. For 10,000 years, this council has only cared about matters inside its borders. Species outside our space were considered irrelevant. The Dominion proved how wrong that was. He turned to look at Katie. Humanity has shown us another way. We propose the creation of a joint defense initiative. A fleet that will respond to threats against all species, whether they are council members or not. Ambassador Kathra's mandibles clicked nervously. And who would lead this fleet? Vorath bared his teeth. The humans. The chamber exploded again. Objections flew from every direction. The Velthari protested that humans were too young. Other species complained that this would cost too much. Everyone had an opinion. Katie stood at the podium and let them argue. She thought about Earth. She thought about the 18,000 people who had died to protect it. She thought about Nathan Cole, still recovering from his wounds, already planning how to rebuild the fleet. She thought about the shipyards working around the clock, building bigger and better ships. Humanity had come so far in such a short time. And they were just getting started. The vote for the Joint Defense Initiative came 3 hours later. It passed by a narrow margin. 7 species voted yes. 5 voted no. But yes was enough. Commander Nathan Cole was named the first director of the Galactic Defense Initiative. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Vorath approached Katie one final time. The massive predator looked down at the small human who had changed everything. When you first came here, he said, bleeding and desperate, I thought you were the weakest creature I had ever seen. You could barely stand. You could barely breathe. Your 2 companions almost died on our floor. Katie looked up at him. And now? Vorath made that rumbling sound that she had learned to recognize as laughter. Now I think you might be the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Katie laughed too. It felt good to laugh. She had not done it much in the past 8 months. We are not dangerous, she said. We are just stubborn. We do not know when to quit. We do not know when a fight is hopeless. We keep going when any sensible species would give up. She shrugged. It is annoying, honestly, but it seems to work. Vorath considered her words. The galaxy will be watching you now. Every species will be trying to decide if humanity is a threat or an opportunity. You will have enemies. You will have challenges you cannot imagine. I know, Katie said. Does that frighten you? Katie thought about the question. She thought about everything she had experienced since that desperate flight from Earth. The fear and the pain and the loss. The moments when she had wanted to give up. The moments when giving up had not been an option. Everything frightens me, she finally said. It always has. But I learned something during all of this. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is just a feeling. What matters is what you do with it. You can let it stop you, or you can use it to push you forward. She looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, Earth was rebuilding. Humans were working and planning and dreaming. They were looking up at the same stars she was looking at and wondering what would happen next. "We are going to make mistakes," Katie said. "We are going to stumble and fall. We are going to face things we are not ready for. That is what happens when you are young and ambitious and maybe a little bit crazy." She turned back to Varth. "But we are also going to keep getting back up. Every single time. Until there is nothing left in the universe that can knock us down." Varth studied her for a long moment. Then he reached out with one massive clawed hand. Katie took it. Her fingers looked tiny against his palm, but her grip was strong. "The Korath are proud to call humanity allies," Varth said. "I look forward to seeing what you do next." Katie Warren smiled. "So do we," she said. "So do we." She walked out of the council chamber into a galaxy that would never be the same. Behind her, the stars stretched out forever, full of challenges and opportunities and dangers that humanity had not yet imagined. But that was fine. Humanity had faced impossible odds before. They had stared at extinction and refused to blink. They had crashed into the Galactic Council and demanded a seat at the table. Whatever came next, they would face it together, and they would never, ever stop fighting.